evening and welcome to TiVi Tuan-san News at 6. My name is Nguyen. In today's news, Iraqi forces makes gains against IS in the battle for Mosul. Vietnam braces for Typhoon Sarika after flooding kills at least 25 people. And Chinese authorities prepared to charge Crown Casino employees. To today's top news, Iraqi and coalition forces have launched an offensive to drive the self-declared Islamic State militant group from the northern city of Mosul. The Pentagon says Iraqi forces are ahead of schedule following the first day of the battle. But Pentagon spokesman Peter Cook told reporters in Washington the fight could take some time as it remained to be seen whether the so-called Islamic State would stand and fight. The Mosul offensive is the largest and most complex military operation launched in Iraq since US forces withdrew in 2011. Some 30,000 federal forces are leading the offensive, backed by air and ground support from a 60-nation US-led coalition. It is thought between 4,000 and 8,000 IS fighters remain in Mosul. In other world news, a 72-hour truce in conflict-ravaged Yemen is set to begin on Thursday, the UN Special Envoy has announced. Ismail Oud Shak Ahmed said he had received assurances from all Yemeni parties for such a move. Yemeni President Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi's forces have been fighting Houthi rebels who control the capital Sana'a. Mr. Ahmed's announcement follows international criticism over the deaths of 140 people in a Saudi-led airstrike which hit a funeral gathering in the capital earlier this month. In a statement, the United Nations said the ceasefire agreement can be renewed after the initial 3-day period. Meanwhile, the president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, says he will raise a controversial arbitral ruling on the South China Sea with Chinese leaders. The remarks come ahead of Duterte's 4-day visit to Beijing, aimed at improving bilateral ties that soured over competing claims in the resource-rich South China Sea. In July, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled that China had no historic title over its 9-line claim of the disputed waters. China has since refused to recognise the case. Aside from the Philippines, Brunei, Taiwan, Malaysia and Vietnam are also claiming maritime and island rights over some portions of the disputed area. Thailand's military government has urged people not to take the law into their own hands after 3 videos surfaced on social media of angry mobs accusing people of insulting the monarchy. Last Thursday, Thailand's King Bhumibol Adulyadej passed away after 7 decades on the throne. The death of the revered king plunged the Southeast Asian country into mourning and heightened sensitivities to any negative comment. Criticism of the monarch, the regent and the heir, known by the French term lèse majesté, is a crime that carries a jail sentence of up to 15 years in Thailand. On Friday, a crowd of around 400 people gathered in front of a soya milk shop in Phuket province to protest a Facebook post by the vendor's son that they deemed insulting to the king. To news in Vietnam. Vietnam has lifted the death toll from flooding brought by torrential rains to at least 25 as the country braces for the arrival of Typhoon Sarika. The typhoon passed through the Philippines over the weekend, leaving at least 2 people dead and displacing more than 150,000 people. Vietnamese disaster authorities expect that Typhoon Sarika will be the biggest storm of the season, bringing more bad weather to Vietnam. They say 18 have died in the worst hit province of Quang Binh, while another 6 died in other provinces. Heavy flooding has also damaged 240,000 buildings in Vietnam's central provinces. Typhoon Sarika is moving at a speed of 15 to 20 kilometers per hour and may hit the Southeast Asian country by tomorrow. A Vietnamese farmer has become the first jackpot winner of the country's new computerized lottery. The man from the Mekong Delta province of Tra Vinh won Sunday's jackpot worth over $5.2 million after reportedly buying a 50-cent ticket only hours before the draw. The substantial sum of money had accumulated after 39 lottery draws without a winner from the initial prize of about $700,000. The computerized lottery Mega 645 launched in July as a result of cooperation between Vietnam's state-run lottery company Vietlott and an indirect subsidiary of Malaysia-based firm Berjaya Corp. Back to news in Australia. Billionaire James Packer, the majority shareholder of Crown Resorts, has voiced his concern for 18 company employees detained in China for suspected gambling crimes. In a statement, Mr. Packer said he was respectful that the detentions have occurred in another country and are therefore subject to their sovereign rules and investigative processes. 3 Australians are in the group detained late last week in what the industry fears could be a crackdown by Beijing on the promotion of offshore gaming by international companies. It is illegal to promote gambling in China, but casino operators are allowed to employ teams to advertise the luxury resorts side of the business. China arrested 14 South Koreans in June last year for allegedly offering Chinese gamblers free tours, free hotels, and sexual services. Meanwhile, the federal government has rejected claims by rights group Amnesty International that conditions on a tiny South Pacific island where some 400 Australian-bound asylum seekers are held amount to torture. In a detailed report released by Amnesty on Saturday, it's alleged that many of the asylum seekers on Nauru are being driven to attempt suicide to escape the prison-like conditions they face in indefinite detention. Under Australia's tough immigration policy, asylum seekers intercepted trying to reach the country by boat are sent for processing at a camp in Nauru or to Manus Island in Papua New Guinea and are not eligible for resettlement in Australia. Amnesty joins a chorus of criticism by human rights groups of Australia's immigration policy and comes just weeks after the United Nations said Nauru was failing to protect children. That's all from TiVi Tuan-san News at 6. I'm Nguyen. Thank you for your company.